The mahogany casket gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights of the funeral home as Kwame stood at the podium, tears streaming down his face. His voice cracked as he spoke about his beloved wife, Amara, while mourners dabbed their eyes with white handkerchiefs. But something was terribly wrong with this picture. Sitting in the third row, draped in designer black from head to toe, was Chioma, a woman whose diamond necklace caught the light every time she moved. The same woman who had been seen getting out of Kwame's Mercedes just 3 days before Amara's sudden death. The same woman whose bank account had mysteriously received $2 million from Kwame's offshore account the morning after Amara collapsed in their kitchen. Amara's sister, Zuri, stood near the back of the room, her hands trembling as she clutched her phone. On the screen was a text message she had discovered on Amara's laptop, a message her sister had never finished sending. Zuri, if you're reading this, I'm in danger. Kwame has been poisoning my food. I found the antifreeze hidden in his workshop. Please don't let him get away with this. The proof is in the blue folder under my mattress. Zuri's eyes burned into the back of Kwame's head as he continued his Oscar-worthy performance at the podium. She watched Chioma lean forward, a small smile playing at the corners of her lips, as if she was enjoying some private joke. The audacity of it all made Zuri's blood boil. How could he stand there, pretending to be the grieving husband, when he had murdered his wife in cold blood? How could that woman sit there, flaunting her relationship with a killer, as if she hadn't helped destroy a family? But Zuri was smart. She had learned from her sister's mistake of confronting Kwame too soon. Instead, she had gone to Amara's house the night before the funeral and found exactly what her sister had mentioned. The blue folder contained bank statements, screenshots of text messages between Kwame and Chioma, and most damning of all, a receipt from a hardware store where Kwame had purchased antifreeze 3 weeks before Amara's death. Zuri had made copies of everything and hidden the originals in 3 different locations. As Kwame stepped down from the podium, he walked past the casket and placed his hand on it with practiced sorrow. The crowd murmured sympathetically. Then he did something that made several people gasp. He looked directly at Chioma and gave her an almost imperceptible nod. She stood up, smoothed down her dress, and walked toward the exit as if she owned the place. Zuri felt her phone buzz. It was a message from Detective Marcus Washington, the one person she had trusted with her sister's evidence. The message contained just 3 words that changed everything. We have them. But before Zuri could process what that meant, the funeral home doors burst open with a force that shook the walls, and what happened next would expose secrets darker than anyone in that room could have imagined. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see how this story unfolds. Hit that notification bell because what happens next will shock you to your core. Drop a comment and tell me, would you have confronted the killer at the funeral, or would you have waited like Zuri did? Share this with someone who loves a gripping story. 6 armed police officers stormed into the funeral home, their badges glinting as they moved with practiced precision through the crowd of shocked mourners. Detective Marcus Washington led the charge, his eyes locked on Kwame, who had frozen mid-step, his hands still resting on his wife's casket. The detective's voice rang out clear and authoritative across the silent room. Kwame Okonkwo, you are under arrest for the murder of Amara Okonkwo. The gasps that followed were deafening. Kwame's face transformed in an instant, the mask of grief slipping away to reveal something cold and calculating underneath. He didn't run. He didn't protest. Instead, his eyes swept across the room until they found Chioma, who had stopped halfway to the exit, her designer heels clicking to a halt on the marble floor. You said this couldn't happen, Kwame hissed loud enough for those nearby to hear. You said you took care of everything. Chioma's perfectly made-up face went pale. She shook her head frantically, backing toward the door, but 2 female officers were already moving to block her path. Detective Washington pulled out another pair of handcuffs. Chioma Adeyemi, you're also under arrest as an accessory to murder and conspiracy to commit fraud. That's when Chioma did something unexpected. She laughed. It wasn't a nervous laugh or a laugh of disbelief. It was a laugh of pure, unbridled arrogance. She looked at Kwame with contempt burning in her eyes. You fool, she spat. You actually thought I loved you? You were just a means to an end. The room erupted in confused murmurs. Kwame's face contorted with rage and confusion. What are you talking about? We planned this together. The life insurance money, starting our new life in Dubai. Everything. Kioma's laugh grew louder, more manic. There is no we, you idiot. There never was. Zuri pushed her way through the crowd, her voice shaking but strong. Tell them the truth, Kioma. Tell everyone who you really are. For the first time, fear flickered across Kioma's face. She looked at Zuri, and recognition slowly dawned. You, she whispered. Yes, me, Zuri said, moving closer. Tell them how you're not just some billionaire businesswoman. Tell them about your real name. Tell them about Lagos 2019. Detective Washington pulled out his phone and held it up, displaying a photograph that made several people in the front row gasp. It showed a younger Kioma, with different hair and wearing a prison jumpsuit, standing in what was clearly a mugshot. Her real name is Ngozi Okoro, the detective announced. She's a known con artist who's been running schemes across 3 continents. She served 2 years in a Nigerian prison for fraud and embezzlement before disappearing. She targeted wealthy men, convinced them to kill their wives for insurance money, then disappeared with all the funds before the men could access them. Kwame's legs seemed to give out. 2 officers caught him before he hit the ground. No, he whispered. No, no, no. We were going to be together. You said you loved me. I've said that to 12 men before you, Chioma said with a shrug. And honestly, you weren't even the richest. Just the stupidest. Amara's mother, who had been sitting in the front row in silent grief, suddenly stood up. Her voice when she spoke carried the weight of unbearable pain. You killed my daughter for nothing? For a woman who never cared about you? My Amara, who loved you, who gave you everything. Kwame couldn't meet her eyes. He stared at the floor as the officers began reading him his rights. But Zuri wasn't finished. She had one more card to play. There's something else you all need to know, Zuri said, her voice cutting through the chaos. She pulled out a folder and held it up. 3 months ago, Amara found out she was pregnant. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the officers paused in their work. Kwame's head snapped up, his eyes wide with horror. She was going to tell you that night, Kwame, the night you gave her the poison tea. She was going to tell you that you were going to be a father. What happened next would haunt everyone in that room for the rest of their lives. Before we continue with this shocking story, I want to ask you, where are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comments. I love connecting with viewers from all over the world. And if you're enjoying this story, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more incredible tales. What would you do if you discovered your partner was planning to harm you? Comment below. Share this video with your friends who love true crime and dramatic stories. Trust me, they'll thank you for it. Kwame's scream was primal, a sound of anguish so raw that even the hardened police officers flinched. He collapsed fully to the ground, the officers struggling to keep him restrained as he thrashed against the handcuffs. No, 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 he kept repeating, his voice breaking with each word. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. But his protests fell on deaf ears. The mourners who had come to pay their respects to Amara now looked at him with pure hatred. Several men had to be held back by their wives as they surged forward, wanting to tear Kwame apart with their bare hands. You killed your wife and your child, you monster, Amara's uncle shouted, tears streaming down his weathered face. May you never know peace. Detective Washington signaled his officers to remove both Kwame and Chioma from the funeral home before the situation escalated into violence. As they dragged Kwame toward the exit, he turned his head toward Chioma, who was being let out through a side door. Their eyes met for one final moment, and what Zuri saw in that exchange chilled her to the bone. There was no love there, no shared conspiracy, just the cold reality of a man who had destroyed everything for a phantom promise. After the police vehicles pulled away, sirens wailing into the afternoon, the funeral home fell into a heavy silence. Amara's body still lay in the casket, a reminder that this wasn't just a dramatic arrest. This was a tragedy that had stolen a young woman's life and the life of her unborn child. Zuri walked to the casket and placed her hand on the smooth wood, her tears finally flowing freely. I got them, sis, she whispered. I got them both. But as the crowd began to disperse, speaking in hushed, shocked tones, Detective Washington approached Zuri. His expression was grave. more troubled than she expected for someone who had just solved a murder case. "Ms. Okafor, we need to talk," he said quietly. "Privately." Zuri's stomach dropped. "What is it? Did something happen? Are they going to get away with this?" "No, they're not getting away. We have enough evidence to put them both away for life," the detective assured her. "But there's something about your sister's case that doesn't add up. Something we discovered during our investigation that you need to know." He led her to a quiet corner of the funeral home and pulled out his tablet, scrolling through what appeared to be financial records. "When we were building our case against Kwame, we subpoenaed all of Amara's accounts, her phone records, everything, and we found something unusual." Zuri's heart hammered in her chest. "What did you find?" "Your sister was investigating Chioma, or Ngozi, or whatever her real name is, long before she suspected Kwame of poisoning her. In fact, we found evidence that Amara had hired a private investigator 2 months before her death. She had compiled an entire dossier on Chioma's past crimes." "I don't understand," Zuri said, confusion mixing with her grief. "Are you saying Amara knew what was happening?" "Not exactly," Detective Washington said carefully. "We think Amara discovered the affair and started investigating Chioma on her own. She uncovered Chioma's criminal past and was planning to expose her. But here's the strange part. 3 weeks before her death, Amara made several large cash withdrawals from her personal account, over $50,000 in total." "50,000? What would she need that much cash for?" "We don't know. The money's gone, completely untraceable, and there's more." He swiped to another document. 2 weeks before she died, Amara met with a lawyer and changed her will. She left everything to you, Zuri, not a penny to Kwame. She also set up a trust fund, but we can't figure out who the beneficiary is. The account is sealed with instructions that it can only be opened by someone with a specific code. Zuri's mind raced. Her sister had been planning something, moving pieces on a chessboard that Zuri was only now beginning to see. "Did you find anything else? Any clue about what she was planning?" Detective Washington hesitated, then pulled up a final image. It was a photograph from Amara's phone, taken the day before she died. It showed a piece of paper with handwriting that was unmistakably Amara's. The message was cryptic. "If I die, look for the sunrise. The truth always comes with the dawn. Tell Zuri that forgiveness is stronger than revenge, and love never dies." "What does that mean?" Zuri asked, her voice barely a whisper. "We were hoping you could tell us," the detective said. "Does sunrise mean anything to you? A place? A person?" Before Zuri could answer, her phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unknown number. She looked at the screen, her finger hovering over the decline button, but something made her answer. "Hello?" The voice on the other end made her blood run cold. It was a woman's voice, gentle and eerily familiar. "Hello, Zuri. This is Amara. If you're hearing this message, then I'm already gone. But my work isn't finished. There's someone else involved in this plot, someone more dangerous than Kwame or Chioma could ever be. Someone who's been watching you since the moment you found my message. You're in danger, little sister, and you need to find the sunrise before they find you." The line went dead and Zuri's world tilted on its axis. This story keeps getting deeper and more twisted. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens next, because trust me, you won't believe where this goes. Hit that like button if you're as shocked as I am right now. What do you think Amara's message means? Who else could be involved? Drop your theories in the comments below. And share this video because your friends need to experience this wild ride too. Zuri's hands shook so violently that she nearly dropped her phone. Detective Washington grabbed her arm to steady her, his eyes sharp with concern and professional alertness. "What's wrong? Who was that?" "It was Amara," Zuri whispered, her voice barely audible. "My sister. She left me a voice message that just played automatically when I answered." The detective's expression shifted from concern to intense focus. "Let me hear it." Zuri played the message on speaker, and they listened to Amara's voice echo through the now nearly empty funeral home. When it ended, Detective Washington immediately got on his radio, barking orders to his team about tracing the call and increasing security. "This changes everything," he said grimly. "If your sister believed there was another person involved, someone more dangerous, then we may have arrested the wrong people. Or at least, not all of them." Zuri's mind raced back through the last few months of her sister's life. searching for clues she might have missed. Amara had seemed distracted, yes, but Zuri had attributed that to marriage problems. Now she realized her sister had been carrying a much heavier burden, investigating a conspiracy while knowing her own husband was trying to kill her. The sunrise, Zuri said suddenly. When we were kids, my grandmother used to take us to this place outside Atlanta every Sunday morning. There was a small church on a hill, and we'd watch the sunrise together. Grandma called it our sunrise sanctuary. Amara and I kept going there even after Grandma passed away, especially when we needed to think or talk about something serious. Could she have left something there? Maybe, but the church burned down 5 years ago. There's nothing left but the foundation and the old cemetery behind it. Detective Washington was already heading for the door. We need to go there now. If there's evidence or information that your sister hid, we need to find it before someone else does. 20 minutes later, Zuri found herself standing in the overgrown ruins of her childhood sanctuary. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the crumbling stone foundation. Yellow police tape fluttered in the evening breeze, and 2 officers stood guard at the perimeter, while Detective Washington and Zuri searched the area. Where would she hide something? The detective asked, surveying the desolate landscape. Zuri walked toward the old cemetery, her feet moving on autopilot toward a familiar spot. There, beneath an ancient oak tree, was their grandmother's grave. The headstone read, "Sarah Okafor, beloved mother and grandmother, she taught us that every sunrise brings hope." "Here," Zuri said, kneeling beside the grave. "This has to be it." She noticed immediately that something was different. The small solar lantern that the family kept on the grave, the one that lit up automatically at dusk, had been replaced with a newer model. Zuri picked it up and examined it carefully. On the bottom, barely visible, was a small USB port. "Detective, look at this." Washington knelt beside her, pulling out his phone to use as a flashlight. "That's not a standard solar lantern. Someone modified it." He carefully opened the base, and inside, nestled in a waterproof compartment, was a USB drive and a small key. Zuri's hands trembled as she took them. The key had a tag attached with a number, 237. "Safety deposit box," Detective Washington said. "But which bank?" Before Zuri could answer, her phone rang again. This time, the caller ID showed a name that made her gasp. Amara Okonkwo. Her dead sister's name was calling her. She answered with shaking hands, putting it on speaker so the detective could hear. "Zuri, if you found the sunrise, then you're close to the truth." It was another pre-recorded message from Amara, but this one was different. Her sister's voice was urgent, frightened. "The person I'm about to tell you about is dangerous beyond measure. They're not doing this for money or passion. They're doing this for revenge. You see, Kwame wasn't their first target, and I wasn't their first victim. There have been others, at least 6 that I found evidence of, maybe more. They're a professional, Zuri. They find wealthy men, seduce them through intermediaries like Chioma, and convince them to kill their wives. But it's not about the money, it's about destroying families. They're collecting broken hearts like trophies." The message paused, and Zuri could hear her sister's ragged breathing. "The mastermind's name is someone you know, someone we both trusted. It's—" The message cut off abruptly, replaced by static, then silence. "No!" Zuri screamed. "No! No! No! Come back!" But the line was dead. Detective Washington was already on his radio again, demanding tech support to recover the rest of the message. But something in his expression told Zuri that he already suspected who Amara was about to name. "Miss Okafor," he said slowly, his eyes meeting hers with terrible certainty. "When was the last time you spoke to your father?" The question hit Zuri like a physical blow. "My father? What does he have to do with this? He's been living in Nigeria for the past 10 years. He and Amara barely spoke after he remarried." "That's not entirely true," Detective Washington said grimly. He pulled up something on his tablet and showed it to her. It was a series of photographs, surveillance images from various locations. They showed Amara meeting with a tall, distinguished-looking man at restaurants, parks, and coffee shops over the past 6 months. The man was their father, Joseph Okafor. "Your sister had been meeting with your father regularly, and according to financial records we've uncovered in the past hour, your father wired Chioma, or Ngozi, over $500,000 in the past year. He also has connections to at least 3 of the other cases where wives died under suspicious circumstances after their husbands met mysterious wealthy women. Zuri felt the world spinning around her. That's impossible. Why would my own father want Amara dead? He loved us. He loved our mother before she died. Did he? Detective Washington asked gently. Or did your mother die under suspicious circumstances too? The USB drive felt like it was burning in Zuri's hand. Whatever was on it held the answers to questions she wasn't sure she wanted answered. But as the last light of day faded and darkness crept over the cemetery, Zuri knew she had no choice. She had to know the truth, no matter how much it destroyed her. "We need to look at what's on this drive," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "And we need to find my father before he disappears." Detective Washington nodded grimly. "I've already put out an alert. But Zuri, you need to prepare yourself. Whatever your sister uncovered, it's going to change everything you thought you knew about your family." As they walked back to the detective's car, neither of them noticed the figure watching from the shadows of the tree line, a phone pressed to their ear, speaking in low, urgent tones. "She found the sunrise. Yes, she has the drive. No, she doesn't know everything yet. Should I proceed with the plan?" "Understood. It ends tonight." What in the world is happening? If this story has you on the edge of your seat, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. We're only getting started, and trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. What do you think is on that USB drive? Could Zuri's father really be behind all of this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think there's more to this story than we know? Have you ever discovered a family secret that changed everything? Let me know below. And please, share this video with anyone who loves a good mystery, because this is about to get even more intense. The police station's conference room felt suffocatingly small as Zuri sat before a laptop, the USB drive plugged in, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Detective Washington sat beside her, along with 2 FBI agents who had arrived within the hour once the scope of the case became clear. The key with the number 237 sat on the table, waiting for answers that the USB drive might provide. "Are you ready?" Detective Washington asked gently. Zuri nodded, though she felt anything but ready. Her finger hovered over the mouse, then clicked. The drive opened to reveal a single folder labeled the Sunrise Files. Inside were dozens of documents, audio recordings, photographs, and video files. Zuri clicked on a document titled "Start Here, Zuri." Her sister's words filled the screen, and Zuri had to blink back tears to read them. "My dearest Zuri, if you're reading this, then I failed to stop what was coming. I'm so sorry for leaving you alone with this burden, but you're the only one I can trust. What I'm about to tell you will shatter everything you believe about our family, but you need to know the truth. Our father, Joseph Okafor, is not the man we thought he was. He's a serial killer, Zuri, not in the traditional sense, but a killer nonetheless. For the past 15 years, he's been orchestrating the murders of at least 8 women, possibly more, and it all started with our mother." Zuri's breath caught in her throat. Detective Washington placed a steadying hand on her shoulder, but she barely felt it. She kept reading. "Mama didn't die of a heart attack. She was poisoned, just like Kwame tried to poison me. I found the medical records that Daddy had sealed. The coroner noted irregularities but was pressured to rule it natural causes. Our father had connections even then. But why would he kill the woman he supposedly loved? That's the question that started my investigation 6 months ago." Zuri clicked on a video file labeled "Mother's Truth." The screen showed Amara sitting in what looked like a hotel room, her face drawn and exhausted. "I finally understand why Daddy killed Mama," Amara said into the camera, her voice thick with emotion. "It wasn't about money or another woman. It was about revenge for something that happened long before we were born. I tracked down Mama's sister in Lagos, Aunt Blessing, the one Daddy said died when we were babies. She's alive, Zuri. She's been hiding for 20 years because she knew the truth." The video cut to another recording, this one showing an older woman with kind eyes that reminded Zuri painfully of their mother. The woman spoke in a heavy Nigerian accent. "Your mother, my sister Chidinma, she was promised to another man before she met your father, a man named Obina, from a powerful family in our village. But she fell in love with Joseph and ran away to marry him. It was a scandal that brought shame to both families. Obinna swore revenge, not just on Chidinma, but on Joseph's entire bloodline. He said he would make Joseph watch everyone he loved die, slowly, one by one. The woman wiped tears from her eyes. We thought Obinna had forgotten, moved on. But 20 years ago, he found us. He threatened Chidinma, said he would kill her children if she didn't come back to him. Your mother refused. So Obinna changed tactics. He befriended Joseph, gained his trust over years, and then revealed who he really was. He told Joseph that the only way to save his daughters was to kill Chidinma himself and then help Obinna destroy other families the same way. He said if Joseph refused, you and Amara would die in ways too horrible to imagine. Zuri felt sick. Detective Washington paused the video. Do you need a moment? No, Zuri said firmly. I need to see all of it. The video continued. Aunt Blessing leaned closer to the camera. Your father was a broken man. He believed he had no choice. He poisoned your mother, and then Obinna kept his word about sparing you girls. But the price was that Joseph had to become Obinna's instrument. For the past 15 years, he's been identifying men like Kwame, vulnerable men who could be manipulated, and Obinna would send people like Chioma to seduce them and convince them to kill their wives. It's all been part of Obinna's twisted revenge, spreading the pain of lost love across as many families as possible. The video ended, and Zuri sat in stunned silence. Detective Washington spoke into his radio. We need to find Joseph Okafor and a man named Obinna immediately. Consider them extremely dangerous. But Zuri was clicking through more files, her hands moving automatically. She opened a folder labeled Current Targets and gasped. There were profiles of 12 men, complete with photographs, financial information, and personal details. Next to each man's profile was information about a woman who had been assigned to seduce him. Most of the files were marked completed, meaning the wives were already dead. But 3 files were marked in progress. One of those files made Zuri's blood run cold. It was a profile of Detective Marcus Washington himself. Next to his photo was a picture of a beautiful woman named Thandiwe and a note in Amara's handwriting. Marcus is a widower. His wife died in a car accident 2 years ago. But I found the accident report. Brake lines were cut. He's been dating Thandiwe for 3 months. She's one of Obinna's operatives. He doesn't know he's being set up for his own daughter's murder. Zuri slowly turned to look at Detective Washington, who was still speaking into his radio, unaware. She reached out and touched his arm. Marcus, she said quietly, you need to see this. She turned the laptop toward him. His face went pale as he read the file about himself. His hands began to shake. Maya, he whispered, his voice breaking. My daughter. She's with Thandiwe right now. I let Thandiwe take her to the movies tonight. He grabbed his phone and dialed frantically. Once, twice, 3 times. No answer. He tried his daughter's phone. Straight to voicemail. We need to go now, he said, his professional demeanor cracking. St. Charles Cinema on Peachtree. That's where they were going. 2 FBI agents and 4 police officers mobilized immediately, but Zuri grabbed the detective's arm again. Wait, there's an audio file here labeled for Marcus. We need to listen to it. Despite his panic, Detective Washington paused. Zuri clicked play, and once again Amara's voice filled the room. Marcus, if you're hearing this, then Zuri found the files, and you now know about Thandiwe. But there's something else you need to know. Your wife's death wasn't part of Obinna's original plan. She discovered what was happening, just like I did. She was investigating a series of suspicious deaths and got too close to the truth. Obinna had her killed to silence her. That's why he targeted you afterward, to make you suffer the ultimate loss, just like my father has suffered. Your daughter isn't just a target, Marcus. She's the key to bringing Obinna down. He always attends the final kill, always watches from the shadows to see his revenge completed. If you can save Maya, you can catch him. The recording continued. The safety deposit box key that Zuri found opens box 237 at First National Bank on West Peachtree. Inside is everything you need. Evidence of all of Obinna's crimes, his real identity, his location, everything. But you have to save Maya first. He's planning to make Thandiwe convince you that your daughter ran away. Then in a few months, they'll find her body and frame you for it. Don't let that happen, Marcus. Save your daughter. Catch Obina. End this cycle of revenge. Detective Washington was already running for the door, his gun drawn, shouting orders into his radio. Zuri grabbed the USB drive and the key and ran after him. The FBI agents surrounded her as they all rushed toward the exit. But as they burst through the police station doors into the night, Zuri's phone rang one more time. The caller ID showed a number she recognized from the case files. It was Obina himself. Against every instinct, she answered. "Hello, Zuri," said a voice that was cultured, educated, and absolutely chilling. "I've been waiting to speak with you. Your sister was a remarkable woman, very clever, but not clever enough. You see, I knew she was investigating me months ago. I let her find what she found. I let her leave those files. Because now, you and Detective Washington are exactly where I want you to be, rushing headlong into a trap. Your sister thought she was setting a trap for me, but really she just delivered me my final two victims. By midnight tonight, both you and the detective's daughter will be dead, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it." The line went dead, and Zuri felt ice water flood her veins. They were walking into a trap, but they had no choice. A little girl's life hung in the balance. If you're still watching, hit that like button, because this story is reaching its climax and you won't believe how it ends. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss the finale. What would you do in Zuri's situation? Would you walk into the trap to save an innocent child? Comment below and share this with anyone who needs to see how this incredible story concludes. The St. Charles Cinema parking lot was eerily quiet for a Friday night. Detective Washington's unmarked car screeched to a halt, followed by two police cruisers and an FBI van. The neon lights of the theater flickered against the darkening sky, casting strange shadows across the nearly empty lot. "Something's wrong," Marcus said, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "The 7 o'clock showing should have just let out. Where is everyone?" One of the FBI agents, a woman named Agent Torres, checked her tablet. "The theater's website shows all screenings canceled for tonight due to emergency maintenance. But according to our records, no maintenance was scheduled." "He cleared the building," Zuri said, her voice tight with fear. "Obina cleared everyone out so he could control the situation." Marcus was already out of the car, moving toward the entrance with his weapon drawn. "Maya," he shouted. "Maya, if you can hear me, it's Dad." The glass doors of the cinema stood open, and the lobby beyond was dark except for the dim glow of emergency exit signs. The smell of popcorn hung in the air, a surreal normalcy against the nightmare unfolding. "We need to be smart about this," Agent Torres said, positioning her team. "If this is a trap, he'll have planned for us to charge in." But Marcus wasn't listening. His daughter was inside, and every second wasted was a second she was in danger. He pushed through the doors, and Zuri followed despite the agent's protests. She couldn't let him face this alone, not when her own sister had died trying to stop this monster. The lobby was a maze of shadows. The candy counter stood abandoned, a half-filled bucket of popcorn sitting on the floor as if someone had dropped it in a hurry. Zuri's eyes adjusted to the darkness, and she saw something that made her stomach turn. On the wall, written in what looked like red paint but might have been something worse, were the words, "Theater 3, come alone or she dies." Marcus saw it too. He started toward the hallway leading to the theaters, but Agent Torres grabbed his arm. "We go together. That's not a request, Detective. You're too emotionally involved." They moved as a unit through the dark corridor, passing theaters 1 and 2. The door to Theater 3 stood ajar, and a faint light emanated from within. Marcus pushed it open, and they entered. The theater was vast and empty, rows of red seats facing a massive screen that glowed with static. In the center of the front row sat a small figure. Even from the back of the theater, Marcus recognized his daughter's purple jacket. "Maya!" He started to run, but a voice boomed through the theater's sound system, stopping him cold. "Welcome, Detective Washington and Zuri Okafor. I'm so pleased you could join us for the final showing." The screen flickered to life, and a face appeared. It was a man in his 60s, distinguished and handsome, with silver hair and cold, calculating eyes. "Obina. You're probably wondering where I am," the face on the screen said with a slight smile. The beauty of modern technology is that I can be anywhere. But don't worry, I can see you perfectly. There are cameras throughout this theater. Let my daughter go, Marcus growled, still moving toward the small figure in the front row. Stop right there, detective, or young Maya dies instantly. You see, the seat she's sitting in is rigged with enough explosives to level this entire building. One wrong move from any of you, and boom, everyone dies. Marcus froze. Zuri could see his whole body shaking with the effort of restraint. What do you want? Zuri called out, her voice echoing in the vast space. Ah, Zuri, the younger sister. Did you know that your sister came to me before she died? She offered herself as a trade. She said if I let you live, if I stopped targeting your father, she would drink the poison herself. She would make it look like a suicide and take all the evidence to her grave. Zuri's breath caught. You're lying. Am I? Why do you think Kwame's poison worked so quickly? Your sister didn't fight it. She knew it was coming. She chose to die to save you and to buy time to complete her investigation. Quite noble, really. Sadly, her sacrifice was in vain because here you are anyway. The screen split, showing multiple camera angles. Zuri could now see Maya clearly. The little girl was conscious but gagged, tears streaming down her face. Wires ran from beneath her seat, and a small device with a blinking red light was visible on the armrest. Here's how this is going to work, Obina continued. I'm going to give you all a choice. Detective Washington, you can save your daughter by taking her place. Sit in that seat, let her go, and I'll detonate it with you instead. You die, she lives. Or option 2, Zuri can take the seat. She dies and both Maya and the detective live. Or option 3, you all refuse, and everyone dies, including the dozen officers I can see surrounding the building right now. I've planted explosives throughout this cinema. If I don't enter a code every 5 minutes, the whole place goes up. There has to be another option, Agent Torres said, her voice steady despite the situation. We can negotiate. There is no negotiation, only choices, and you have 2 minutes to make one. Oh, and before you get any ideas about trying to disarm the device, I should tell you it's biometrically locked. Any attempt to tamper with it, or any attempt to move Maya from that seat without entering the code, will trigger immediate detonation. Zuri's mind raced. This was exactly what Obena wanted, to force them into impossible choices, to spread his poison of pain and loss to another generation. But there had to be something they were missing, something Amara had left them that could help. Then she remembered the safety deposit box, the evidence Amara had mentioned. She pulled out her phone and quickly texted one of the officers outside. Get to First National Bank now. Box 237. Break it open if you have to. Send me photos of everything inside. Emergency. 1 minute, Obena's voice announced. I suggest you decide quickly. Marcus was already moving toward his daughter. I'll take her place. Let my daughter go. Dad, no! Maya tried to scream through the gag. Wait, Zuri said, stepping forward. I have a question for you, Obena. Why Theater 3 specifically? Why this theater? This room? The face on the screen smiled, and for the first time, Zuri saw a flicker of something. Pride, maybe. You're clever like your sister. She asked me the same thing once. Because this is where it started, isn't it? Zuri said, pieces falling into place. This theater. My mother used to bring us here when we were children. This was her favorite place. Theater 3 was where she saw her first movie when she came to America. The smile faded from Obena's face. Your mother stole my life from me in a theater much like this one. It seems fitting that her bloodline should end in one. 30 seconds, he announced, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. Zuri's phone buzzed. Photos from the safety deposit box. She opened them frantically, scrolling through images of documents and photographs. Then she saw it, a photograph that changed everything. It was an old picture from Nigeria, showing a young woman standing between two men. One man was clearly a younger version of their father, Joseph. The other was Obina, but the woman between them wasn't their mother. It was Aunt Blessing. You've been lying this whole time, Zuri said, her voice growing stronger. My mother wasn't promised to you. It was her sister, Aunt Blessing. She was your betrothed, and she ran away with my father's brother. Not my mother with my father. You killed the wrong woman, Obina. You've been killing innocent people for 15 years because you got the story wrong. My mother had nothing to do with your lost love." The silence that followed was deafening. On the screen, Obina's face had gone pale. "No," he whispered. "No, that's not possible. Joseph told me, my father has been lying to you for 15 years." Zuri pressed on, holding up her phone to show the photographs. "He let you believe you were getting revenge on the right woman because he needed you to think your revenge was satisfied. But it never was. Because you killed an innocent woman, and every person who's died since then, every family you've destroyed, it's all been based on a lie." Marcus understood what Zuri was doing. She was breaking Obina's certainty, shaking the foundation of his 15-year quest for revenge. If they could make him doubt, make him hesitate, they might have a chance. "Time's up," Obina said, but his voice shook. "Someone has to choose." "I choose the truth," Zuri said. "And the truth is that you're not a mastermind. You're just a broken man who's been manipulated by my father for 15 years. He's been using you, Obina, using your pain to do his dirty work. Every person you think you killed for revenge, you actually killed for him. He's the real monster, not you." The screen flickered, and for a moment, they saw not the composed face of a criminal mastermind, but a man whose entire worldview was crumbling. In that moment of hesitation, Agent Torres made her move. She'd been slowly advancing during the conversation, and now she dove toward Maya. But instead of an explosion, the lights suddenly came on, revealing that what they thought were wires were actually just cables for the theater's sound system. The device on the armrest was a speaker, not a bomb. Maya wasn't in danger at all. She'd been in danger, all right, but not from an explosive. Standing in the projection booth above, visible now in the light, was a figure holding a real detonator, their finger on the trigger. It was Zuri and Amara's father, Joseph Okafor, and he was smiling. "We're so close to the end now." Make sure you stay tuned for the final chapter where everything will be revealed. Hit that like button if this story has kept you guessing, and share it with someone who loves a psychological thriller. The truth is about to come out, and trust me, you won't see it coming. The projection booth window shattered as Joseph Okafor stepped through it, landing gracefully on the theater floor despite the 15-foot drop. In his hand, the detonator's red light blinked steadily. He was dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, looking every bit the successful businessman he pretended to be, not the monster he truly was. "Bravo, Zuri," he said, clapping slowly. "You figured it out faster than your sister did. Amara spent months trying to understand the puzzle, but you saw through it in minutes." "I'm impressed." Marcus had his gun trained on Joseph, but didn't dare shoot with the detonator in play. "Put it down, Okafor. It's over." "Over," Joseph laughed, the sound echoing through the theater. "My dear detective, it's just beginning. You see, there never was an Obina. Well, there was once, but he died 20 years ago in a car accident in Lagos. I've been playing both roles this entire time, the grieving father and the vengeful suitor. Even Chioma, or Ngozi, or whatever she calls herself, didn't know. She thought she was working for some mysterious criminal mastermind, but it was always just me." Zuri felt her legs go weak. "Why? Why would you kill Mama? Why kill all those other women? Why destroy so many families?" Joseph's expression shifted, and for the first time they saw real emotion in his eyes, a deep, bottomless rage mixed with pain so profound it seemed to radiate from him like heat. "Because your mother destroyed me first," he said quietly. "Everyone thinks Chidinma was this perfect woman, this loving wife and mother. But she was having an affair, Zuri. For 5 years before she died, she was sleeping with my business partner, a man I trusted like a brother. When I found out, I confronted them both. She laughed at me, laughed and said she'd never loved me, that she only married me for the security and the American citizenship. She said you and Amara weren't even mine." "That's a lie," Zuri whispered. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. "Is it?" Joseph pulled out his phone with his free hand and held it up, showing a DNA test result. "I had you both tested when you were children." She was telling the truth. "Neither of you share my blood. I raised another man's children for 18 years, loved them as my own, only to discover they were evidence of my wife's betrayal." He lowered the phone, his expression hardening again. "So yes, I killed her. And it felt good. But it wasn't enough. The pain didn't stop. So I started looking at other marriages, other families, wondering how many of them were built on lies like mine was. I started finding men like Kwame, weak men who suspected their wives of betrayal, who feared they weren't good enough. I gave them a push, showed them how easy it would be to end their pain. I wanted to prove that love is a lie, that every marriage is rotten at its core, that everyone is capable of murder if you give them the right motivation. You're insane, Marcus said. You killed innocent women to prove a point? Innocent? Joseph's laugh was bitter. Detective, I've investigated every woman who died. Every single one was having an affair, or planning to leave their husband, or stealing money, or hiding some betrayal. They weren't innocent. They were just better at hiding it than my wife was. I simply accelerated the inevitable. Zuri's mind reeled. Everything she'd believed about her family, her mother, herself was crumbling. Even if that's true, even if Mama betrayed you, we were still your daughters. You raised us. How could you kill Amara? How could you plan to kill me? For the first time, Joseph's composure cracked. His hand trembled slightly. Amara found out the truth about her parentage. She confronted me 6 months ago, said she'd been doing her own DNA test, tracing her real father. She said she was going to expose everything, destroy my entire operation, have me arrested. She said I was never her father anyway, so she owed me nothing. He wiped at his eyes with his free hand. That's when I knew I had to let her go. If she wasn't mine, if she never was, then I was just eliminating a threat. That's what I told myself. But even now, even after everything, I can't shake the memories of teaching her to ride a bike, of walking her down the aisle at her wedding, of being her father for 28 years. Then stop this, Zuri pleaded. Put down the detonator. Let Maya go. Let all of us go. If you ever loved us, even as someone else's children, stop now. Joseph looked at her for a long moment, and Zuri saw the war raging behind his eyes. The man who had raised her fighting against the monster he'd become. I can't, he finally said, because if I stop, if I admit that what I've done is wrong, then I have to face the fact that I murdered the only woman I ever loved over a lie. The DNA test, Zuri, it was falsified. I paid someone to fake it because I needed proof that Chidinma had betrayed me. I needed justification for what I'd already decided to do. But the truth is, you and Amara were mine. You always were. The confession hung in the air like a physical thing. Zuri felt the floor tilt beneath her. You knew? You knew we were your daughters and you still killed Amara. I didn't know until after she was dead, Joseph shouted, his composure finally shattering completely. The real DNA results came 2 days after her funeral. That's when I discovered the company I'd paid had given me fake results. That some administrative error had revealed the truth. You were both mine. I'd killed my own daughter, my precious Amara. Tears streamed down his face now, but his finger remained on the detonator button. That's when I realized I couldn't stop. Because if I stopped, if I faced what I'd done, I would have to live with it. And I can't, Zuri. I can't live in a world where I murdered my own child because I was too broken to see the truth. Agent Torres had been slowly moving Maya during the conversation, and Marcus noticed they were now safely behind a concrete support pillar. He gave Zuri a subtle nod. It was now or never. Dad, Zuri said, and the words seemed to break something in Joseph. You can't bring Amara back, but you can save me. You can save Maya. You can stop adding to the body count. Amara left me a message, her very last words. Do you want to know what she said? Joseph's hand shook. What did she say? She said, tell Zuri that forgiveness is stronger than revenge, and love never dies. She forgave you, Dad. Even knowing what you'd done, even as she was dying, she forgave you. Because that's what real love is. It's not the fairy tale you destroyed trying to prove doesn't exist. It's the messy, complicated, painful thing that survives even death. Joseph's fingers slipped from the button as a sob racked his body. She couldn't have. I don't deserve forgiveness. No, you don't, Zuri agreed, but she gave it anyway. And now you have to decide what to do with it. You can detonate that bomb and kill us all, proving once and for all that love is a lie and that you're the monster you believe yourself to be. Or you can put it down, turn yourself in, and spend the rest of your life honoring Amara's memory by making sure no one else dies because of your pain. For 10 endless seconds, Joseph stood frozen, tears streaming down his face, the detonator shaking in his hand. Then slowly, he set it down on the theater floor and raised his hands in surrender. Marcus was on him in seconds, cuffing him while Agent Torres secured the detonator and began clearing the building. FBI bomb squad rushed in to sweep for any actual explosives. As officers led Joseph away, he looked back at Zuri one last time. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Tell your sister I'm sorry." "Tell her yourself," Zuri said coldly. "Every day for the rest of your life." 3 months later, Zuri stood in the same cemetery where she'd found Amara's hidden message. But this time she wasn't alone. Marcus was there with his daughter, Maya, who had brought flowers. Agent Torres had come too, along with several of the other officers who had worked the case. And there were others, family members of the 8 women who had died because of Joseph's twisted crusade. They were dedicating a memorial, a simple stone that read, "In memory of those lost to revenge, and in honor of those who chose forgiveness. May love always triumph over hate." The safety deposit box had contained not just evidence of Joseph's crimes, but also letters Amara had written to each of the surviving family members, expressing her sorrow and her hope that they could find peace. She'd even set up a trust fund, using the $50,000 she'd withdrawn to provide counseling and support for the families affected by her father's actions. Marcus squeezed Zuri's shoulder gently. "Your sister was remarkable." "She was," Zuri agreed, placing her own flowers on Amara's grave. "She spent her last months trying to make things right, even knowing she couldn't save herself." Maya, now 10 years old and remarkably resilient, tugged on Zuri's sleeve. "Miss Zuri, do you think your sister knew that she was going to be okay? I mean, like in heaven or wherever people go?" Zuri knelt down to look Maya in the eyes. "I think she knew that the truth would come out and that justice would be served and that love would win in the end. And maybe that was enough." As the sun set over the cemetery, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Zuri thought about everything that had happened. Her father was serving 8 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole. Chioma, or Ngozi, had been sentenced to 25 years for her role as an accessory. And the 3 men who had been targeted but not yet acted, including 2 they'd identified from Amara's files, were receiving counseling and had been reunited safely with their families. The cycle of revenge had been broken, but at a terrible cost. Zuri's phone buzzed with a message from the grief counselor she'd been seeing. It was a quote. "The only way to overcome darkness is to shine a light. Be the light someone needs today." Looking around at all the people Amara had tried to save, even in death, Zuri realized her sister had been that light, and now it was her turn to carry it forward. She took out her own phone and opened the voice memo app. "Dear Amara," she began, a new tradition she started of recording messages to her sister. "Today we dedicated your memorial. Everyone came, everyone you tried to save. And I realized something. You didn't die for nothing. You didn't die because Dad's revenge was stronger than your love. You died because you chose to step into the darkness so others could find the light. And that makes you a hero, not a victim." She paused, looking up at the darkening sky where the first stars were beginning to appear. "I promise I'll honor your memory by living the truth you died proving. That forgiveness is stronger than revenge. That love never dies. That even in our darkest moments, we have the power to choose light over darkness. Rest well, big sister. Your sunrise has come." As Zuri walked away from the cemetery with Marcus and Maya, she didn't look back. She'd spent enough time dwelling on the past. Now it was time to look forward, to build something beautiful from the ashes of tragedy, to prove that her sister's death had meaning. The story of how one woman's courage and forgiveness brought down a serial killer and saved countless lives would be told for years to come. And every time someone heard it, they would be reminded that even in the darkest circumstances, even when faced with the worst humanity has to offer, love and truth and forgiveness can still prevail. Because Amara Okonkwo had proven it, and Zuri would make sure the world never forgot. And that's the end of this incredible, heart-wrenching journey. If this story moved you, if it made you think about love, forgiveness, and the choices we make, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with your friends and family because stories like this need to be told. Drop a comment and let me know what you thought of the ending. Were you surprised by the final twist? What would you have done in Zuri's position? And remember, in your own life, choose love over hate, forgiveness over revenge, and light over darkness. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss another gripping tale. Until next time, stay blessed and stay strong.